Rimworld is such a fascinating game, and there's just so many ways that it can go. It makes me incredibly curious to see how different content creators would approach the game. So we've already checked out Seth's review on it, as well as a video from Reggie about it, but Kleaper has been a content creator that we know and love very much on this channel. In fact, I learned quite a bit about how to play Total War Warhammer from him. So today I thought I'd check out this particular video just to kind of get an idea of how Kleaper would approach this game. But of course, this is merely a reaction video. Please go and watch the original first. The link to that is always at the top of the description.
The flesh is weak. Transcendence is inevitable.
A Mechanicus reference right off the bat. Although, considering the theme of this video, quite fitting.
And morality is subjective, because today with Rimworld Android Tiers mod, we'll be creating an entire machine race.
Okay, yeah. This one is modded. Thankfully, we did check out Seth's video, which was more of a review on it, and that being an unmodded campaign pretty much. Even then, it was really crazy, the amount of things that you could do in this game. Add on top of that the DLC as well. My goodness, it is impossible to have the exact same game play out in exactly the same way. And time again, I've probably said this a ton over all of our Rimworld reactions, but it's just amazing to see how the AI storyteller develops around the story that the player is trying to create. Somehow it can understand that and play around with it.
By combining the questionable ethics of one rogue AI, Titanfall mechs, and nuclear weapons, we liberate all organics from the burden of living. To begin the game, we only had a single android named Zero. All androids come in various tiers, and as Zero
Definitely not me, right? Yeah, it's spelled differently.
It was tier 1, he started extremely weak and generally unskilled. We crash landed inside a massive crater surrounded by mountains with insects scattered around the map. Sheltered inside a cave network, we decided to construct our base underground. We quickly made a wind turbine because androids require power to function. They can eat food to power themselves too, but it's extremely inefficient. Tier 1 androids also don't have that pesky thing called free will, which means they don't need recreation, happiness, or pretty much anything but energy. It also translates to a very lenient work schedule, making them better workers than the undesirable humans, of which visited our colony. Right now, we obviously weren't equipped to take them on, but we also wouldn't trade or make alliances with them. After the flesh bags left, we got our first threat, further proof that organics are incapable of thinking for themselves. But with androids as superior as they also take a ton of research to get. Because our overarching goal was to build a ship and escape the
It's an interesting trade-off that we got going off here, but it all makes sense if you just think about androids and just robots in general and how they would fit into this kind of game. The modding scene must be incredible. I feel like it would be a very easy to mod game. And judging from the comments, that is an entire rabbit hole to dive into once you've somehow become satisfied with all the other content that's already within the game. Kind of in a similar fashion to Total War Warhammer 3, it feels like a game that you can spend thousands of hours in and still not really discover every nook and cranny of it.
Planet, we'd need more. First, we'd require microelectronics, then basic robotics to make more tier 1 androids. But Zero's intellect couldn't solve a 1x1 Rubik's Cube. Although he was apparently smarter than our first raid, which dove headfirst into an insect hive. The raider in question was insanely strong with good stats and traits to boot, but one flaw, they were human. After about a week straight of research, we'd gotten batteries to smooth out our power. We also needed a way to cool down the base because it was 113 degrees Fahrenheit outside.
Holy.
Androids are great at resisting low temperatures, but not so great when it gets hot. We also couldn't just mine deeper into the mountain because—
Bro, that makes sense. I remember when I started YouTube, I was working on my little dinky laptop. The cover of it was already peeling off. It took about 10 minutes to start up and about an hour to process a 10-minute video. Very humble beginnings, but I did what I could to make videos that I could with that kind of tech. But the greatest enemy of all was definitely overheating. Sometimes the fan underneath it didn't even properly work, so I had to use a book to prop it up, but yeah, some of you guys out there with potato PCs will probably understand the struggle. I'm incredibly lucky to not have to deal with that anymore, but I can't imagine trying to do all of that on an alien planet.
Zero mining skill hurts my soul. Well, if I had one. What hurt even more was that we were using an AI program with the intelligence of a rusty toaster to research advanced electrical grids. In the meantime, a second group of human visitors showed up, who gifted us a wooden mace. Humans giving a killer robot weapons? Yeah, that checks out. We got another raider, and undeterred by the skull of her friend, she too was annihilated. Following that, we accepted a quest for a nomad.
Why is this just so perfect? There happens to be man-eating bugs at the exact entryway that all these raiders are attempting to attack from. Like, do they not see? Does the AI take pity on us because our robot is just so incredibly stupid?
With the intention of gaining more food. But Olga, the nomad, was actually competent at research, so I decided to keep her around for a little while. After all, what's more cruel than tricking humans into aiding their doom? Or, you know, letting them do it themselves. Yet another raider, and this one actually walked past the insects. More nomads requested help, and I accepted them again solely to speed up research. Zero was actually tolerating Olga. As for the others, chit-chat +1. We researched microelectronics, pivoted into basic robotics, and finally began on our most important research, Tier 1 androids. Unfortunately, to build androids, we needed plasteel, of which we didn't have. But with our research done, that also meant our nomad friends had
Oh my god. Those plasteel ingots. They are such a pain to farm for in Subnautica. Well, mind you, I'm only kind of like maybe midway through Subnautica, so there's probably something even worse that I gotta go find. But just hearing that kind of triggered that memory for me. God. So much titanium already down the drain.
Outlived their usefulness. The last refugee is not willing to accept this and has turned violently against you. Oh, really? Although with Olga, as a dear friend of Zero, I felt it was wrong to harm her. The insects felt differently. To get plasteel, we need to start strip mining the mountain to find it, which led to us uncovering an ancient danger in our base. We started digging out a formal room for our operations, and in doing so, we discovered plasteel. Now all we needed to do was mine it.
Uh-oh. That is going to take a very long time.
With some plasteel, we could finally build a Tier 1 android, if I'd remembered to actually research them. God damn it. But finally, after researching, we started building the android with our 6 crafting skill. And we have 1.
Oh no.
Now that we actually had what we needed, we started...
Okay, I'm assuming it's a similar progression system to a lot of other games where you gotta craft the basic stuff first and it slowly levels up that expertise within that skill. Crafting these clubs is probably the easiest thing to do, judging from how many are strewn about on the floor. There even seems to be a quality to these items that are crafted, which might be like an RNG thing.
And finished our very first Tier 1 android. Tier 1 androids were a massive leap forward in our tech. With 2 androids that had seized the means of reproduction, our numbers would be able to grow. Tier 1 androids also don't spawn with passion, so their learning was non-existent. What did help was having a plasteel meteor land in our settlement, giving us a ton of android materials. A second Tier 1 android finished.
Well, the AI taking pity on you. Like, so that's what you need here. Have a little bit of a something until I send some raiders down your ass.
And this one with a whopping 5 artistic skill, earning the name Mozart and being shipped to the mines, where he struck uranium ore. A surprise tool that would help us later. Back to our plasteel ore, I was holding back from mining it. Later in our tech tree were basic replacement parts and mining arms, which increase our mining yield by an insane amount, meaning we get more resources per mined ore. But our research got interrupted by a wanderer who wanted to join the colony. We gladly accepted, and as a show of gratitude, we gave them a comfy room and a special new name. The wanderer then immediately had a mental break. A food binge. We eventually researched Tier 2 androids, but unfortunately they cost 16 components and
I wonder what systems dictate that. Like, exactly what kind of mental condition that they'll have. It probably has something to do with their inherent traits, plus the situation that they find themselves in.
We had 0, meaning we'd have to find more. While strip mining, an ostrich went mad, so we accepted some forlorn refugees to fix the problem. I had a refugee with high mining skill get the uranium and plasteel, but also kind of forgot about the one bleeding out in the field. I was going to arrest the other one, but he got injured in a work-related accident. Oh, and remember that wanderer? This is them. Top 10 celebrities who did not age well. For those of you who don't know, that's a mime from Alpha Animals. Mimes disguise as wanderers and try to eat your colonists, but they do have a weakness: food. Some human traders also walked in.
That I did not know. Okay, so there's obviously dangers even in the supposedly have friendly NPCs that the AI sends you.
And after we refused to talk to them, fought the insects, set someone on fire, then left. An average day in the Balkans. Later, we got a quest for a colonist who turned out to be an android. We accepted and fought the man-hunting animals to have 4 colonists. This coincided with the next stage of our robotics, our first Tier 2 android. Relative to the basic Tier 1 androids, Tier 2 are almost twice as efficient and still have no concern for human life, but also share the downside of no passions. With that said, they can still be improved with more advanced parts, such as these mining arms. We were visited by a trader from the android faction who traded us much needed components. Then we installed a mining arm in our Tier 2 androids, now renamed Dig Dug. More mining arms meant improved efficiency to mine more materials per each ore.
Imagine he does all of this and then makes it do something like research. No, that's probably not going to happen, but for the sake of the video, maybe.
Also researched advanced programming, which allows us to randomize our androids and their traits. After successfully randomizing Dig Dug's traits, he got Intolerant, Bloodlust, and War Casket, which if you read it, you'll realize it makes absolutely no sense. It also just so happens to make
Wait. Okay, give me a second. Dig Dug is entombed in a war casket. No amount of pain will have an effect on them, and they can never go into a pain, shock, or drop unconscious due to pain. Because of how bulky the armor is and how much energy it takes to use it, Dig Dug is not capable of doing any work. What? What is this trait? What?
sense. It also just so happens to make Dig Dug incapable of all work. But it's not really a huge deal, because we can just randomize again, and then we got it again.
Oh my god.
While Dig Dug was busy figuring out who he'd be today, we continued strip mining, research toward...
And after all the effort of putting all those mining arms on him, which we were clearly going to be using him for a particular purpose, but yeah, no, he's dead.
towards machining and set the foundation for a not terrible looking base. By the time we'd randomized personalities a third time, we got rid of the War Casket trait by gaining Shell Casket. So instead of being incapable of work, Dig Dug was just horribly traumatized and had his mental state completely ruined. Oh no.
Oh, that's
Anyways,
fine.
he also decided to hate humans.
Yeah, right? Like, if he's working in the mines, it doesn't really matter much. Actually, he might like it then.
Just as much as Zero, and then some, and then more. Because with Intolerant,
Every single time he says Zero, I kinda... I do a bit of a double take.
Dig Dug just hates everyone now. Originally, I thought this wasn't a big deal until about 20 seconds later.
What?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh,
That's probably
no.
not good. We arrested and released him, but it still didn't bode well for later. But on the topic of later, we needed to start thinking about our eventual escape. The more androids we had, the faster we'd progress to building the ship. But after it's built, we get attacked by waves of enemies and probably die. Which is exactly why I set my sights on mech technology, which allows us to...
Okay, so it's not like you can just sit there and rush towards your end goal of escaping the planet, because obviously there are the wave of raiders that will come every now and then, but once you actually get to that rocket, the AI probably just sends non-stop waves at you. So if you're not prepared with other research trees and other weaponry and other defenses, then it's not going to work out. Which does make a lot of sense. I mean, other people are also probably going to want to escape from that planet, and they'll likely do whatever it takes in order to take what you have in order to escape the planet for themselves.
Essentially build giant armored robots capable of leveling entire armies. First though, we need to develop our base from a primitive cave to a full robotic compound. By this point, our androids were well armed enough that humans were no longer welcome at the colony. Although the android faction was fine, especially because they traded components. To keep in line with the theme of mentally stable individuals, we made another tier 2 android and named him Hal. Our increase in activity was leading the colony filthy, so we created another bot named Mr. Clean. Fast forwarding a bit, we researched multi-analyzers, built a proper research room, Hal got struck by lightning, and we started research on tier 3 androids. Everything was going well, and our android city was growing. That is, until we got a raid from the Unending March, the only hostile androids in the game. Although for a faction of advanced androids, their raid only had clubs and knives. But it's important to remember, androids don't feel pain. That means all of them will fight to the death and most likely never down. Both Mozart and Mr. Clean were overwhelmed, and the rest of our androids were down.
No. God. It does make a lot of sense that the androids would be unbreakable, though. And at the very least, you know, thank goodness that they didn't have any advanced weaponry. If they did, we'd probably be in trouble here. I mean, we already are, but still.
Zero remained as he kited away and barely finished off the last raider. We'd lost
Nice.
2 androids in the raid and exposed the massive weakness in our defenses. But the raid wasn't all bad because androids have a very special mechanic. With human corpses, you could butcher them for food and leather. With android corpses, you could disassemble them for more components. That includes all...
I kind of hate the fact that hearing Kleaper talk about, you know, butchering a corpse and then, you know, getting certain organs and leather, it's just normal now. That's what I've come to expect from this game. That's just how it is. Oh my god. No wonder why this game is banned in certain countries.
All androids. Goodbye, Mr. Clean, and hello, Clean 2.0. Combining the cheapness of Tier 1 androids and the fact that we could disassemble them post-mortem, we were on our way to amassing an army of expendable soldiers. We'd also researched Tier 3 androids, but the recipe required 10 advanced components, so we need to get fabrication and advanced fabrication. That would also eventually lead to the research to build our ship. In order to get building a ship, we had a few issues to solve. First, we'd need consistent component production. Second, we needed to secure our borders. And third, our androids needed upgrades. We just researched android mind implants, which give massive bonuses. 40% increased work speed, 50% higher experience gain, and absurd combat stat boosts were just some of the implant benefits. Unfortunately, they all needed...
Okay, well, I just realized that in a weird way, well, no, this is probably extremely obvious to you guys who do play this game, but to me, I can kind of think of this in a similar fashion to managing my empire in, say, like Warhammer 3. However, in Warhammer, it's more of like an overall view of your entire empire. Well, that's kind of just the nature of grand strategy. Whereas this one specifically focuses on your colony, and you get to see like the inner details. However, overall, it's still kind of leading in the same direction that, yeah, you need to find a proper balance between production, resources, amassing a proper military in order to defend that empire, working towards whatever end goal your particular faction has, right? There's so many things they need to consider and balance. And that kind of gameplay loop might be something that can hook me here. But until I actually get my hands on the game and someday play it, I'll probably won't know.
Needed advanced components, but we were able to buy a geological implant for mining. After implanting it in Dig Dug, his mining yield was nearly 200%, meaning we doubled our mining gain. But even after everything we'd done, yeah.
Of course.
Man, it's not like we caused chronic pain and trauma for the rest of your life. Just walk it off. Moving on, we'd also researched the ability to craft robotic animals. Right as we started construction on a canine unit, we were attacked by a manhunter pack of cats. We retreated into the base for safety.
What? Oh, dude, you know the AI was looking at that and like, you know what would be funny? If a pack of cats attacked you right about now.
And everybody made it, except for George. The very first android we constructed, now surrounded by feral felines. The rest of the colony was fine, but poor George got circle beat to death in a corner by the cats. George, my best friend, we won't forget you. We'll mourn your death right up until George 2.0. Let's go, baby. We'd also researched fabrication, which would allow us to manufacture components from steel. To add on to our success, we begun to majorly expand the base and mine out more area. The medical bay was completed, storage was finalized, and we began to dig out a quarry. But right in the middle of our expansion, a raid. And this one from the Junker faction, who have plate armor and hulking war caskets. While we were outgunned and under-armored, painless robots always beat squishy meat bags. Or at least most of them. Lucas, the war casket raider, obliterated Sparky with a minigun and shredded our androids. After everyone else was dead, we surrounded and beat down Lucas. And by beat down, I mean he one-punched George into android hell, tore off 3 different metal arms, and was completely unfazed. Then walked away and left. Dear God.
What? What an absolute Giga Chad, man. My dude went in, did all of that damage, and then peaced out. You sure he wasn't a space marine?
War caskets are strong. On the bright side, all the dead raiders were wearing heavy armor that we could take. Basic androids don't care about tainted apparel, so it was a free upgrade. And looking at the remnants of our dear George 2.0's corpse, I learned a valuable lesson. George 3.0, trust me, this one will be the best. And let's dig.
My God. It just made me think of what this would be like. Like, say, if you had actually named all of your members here in this colony after people that you know. like your friends, or for content creators, name them after your regular viewers. It makes me think of that time when we streamed XCOM 2, and we had named all of our characters after viewers who showed up to the streams. Like, it doesn't really change much on the outside, but for whatever reason, once you name them, you just grow so much more attached to them and their fate. so losing them is like extremely devastating, way more devastating than just the fact that, you lost a precious soldier doing a particular difficult mission. That kind of sadness turns into, oh god, I think I just lost one of our members.
Big Doug kills him. Regardless, we were still struggling to get components even with fabrication. That is, until we got a combat supplier and discovered the most broken interaction in the mod. The power of legs. Up to this point, we've been struggling to get enough money for trading. But while on the trade menu, I noticed something. Basic replacement leg, 340 silver. Guess how much they cost to make? 2 components, 40 steel, and barely any work. That is completely broken. Basically what that means is that we can build tons of legs,
and sell them,
buy back the components, and repeat that forever until we bought out every trader.
Infinite
We'd
money
essentially
scheme.
created an economy that relied completely on exporting legs. To top off our period of actual progress, we'd also finished advanced fabrication. This meant we could build advanced components in addition to normal ones. But that still wasn't enough, because with our newfound business venture, buying out traders was easy. Actually getting them was the hard part. So to push our product to its limits, I used a drop pod to send free samples to the Android faction. The response was immediately allying with us. Just in time too, because the Junkers decided to raid yet again. We called for military aid, which cleared the raid. And the best part? We can just disassemble our allies for components. And as
This really is an infinite money loop. Like, every single aspect of it just feeds back in on itself. There's no way that we're not going to have enough resources to get off of this planet now. Unless, of course, if the AI notices this and somehow throws in a curveball. I guess being an android is actually just being a superior being. The flesh is weak.
as a reward for defending us,
Thanks.
in my defense, he did have a cool gun. Naturally, our allies
Oh
weren't all
my
that
God.
happy about us shooting their people, so we shot another, then shipped another pod of foot fetish supplies, and boom, they stopped caring. To further explain,
What is this diplomacy system? I wonder how that works underneath everything. Like, what exactly is going on? Is it a simple system that can be this easily exploited all the time? Or maybe it's just that, like, that one thing that the AI really, really likes, that it'll get you to be allies with them pretty much no matter what. Kind of like in Warhammer 3 building a red building in really any settlement and then giving it off to whatever country is neighboring that settlement. The AI really, really likes that. So the balance and power and negotiation shifts over to your side immensely. And you can get some pretty good deals just from that, even if it's like a level 1 dinky settlement. Maybe that's a similar situation here.
like this, we kept calling caravans only to strip them of their cash and components for basically free. By gaining a consistent supply of resources, we'd satisfied the first of our major goals to work towards building the ship. With the new components, we advanced our tech significantly by building our first Tier 3 android. Until now, all our androids had no free will or desire for happiness. But Tier 3 androids actually do. They work faster than the other androids and have passions, meaning they level their skills fairly quickly. The trade-off is that they actually care about their mood and will have mental breaks. Or, more. So for that reason, we barely care about them. Being extremely expensive, they're also not very necessary. So from this point forward, our production will be set to more Tier 1 and Tier 2 androids. So does that mean that Tier 3 will be the best robots we have? Not even close. A while ago, I mentioned mechs and those we'd be working towards. Unfortunately, to get them, a lot of research was necessary, but with AI implants, it was moving quickly. We also finally
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm really excited to see how these are going to perform on the battlefield, though. We've already lost quite a few androids up to this point, so maybe this time we won't be the ones getting our arms ripped off.
finally got the tools to open that ancient danger because some nomads showed up. I mean, it's just a couple of small bugs and futuristic brains on drugs. After we cleared everything, the nomads decided to leave. Okay. I'm waiting. While the nomads departed, we got another combat supplier. After selling them
To the
20
afterlife.
legs, we made a cool $6,800 profit. I'm really loving
Nice.
Capitalism 2.0, the peg leg update. We also renamed our Tier 3 android to their natural evolution, George 4.0, and made a second one that had a great memory, slowpoke, and brawler, earning the name Wally. With help from Wally, we researched the first part of our mech production. This triggered an event of falling mech debris, which would land in a few days, and apparently a mechanoid raid too, which dropped on top of us. We were greeted by a single Lancer.
Oh.
While waiting for the mech debris, we rebuilt Sparky, continued stockpiling components, and had our first mood-related mental break of the game. And it only took George about 4 weeks of hard labor with no breaks to crack. Amazon, take notes. The debris
Oh, jeez, Amazon. You know, if Amazon could do this and make a profit from it, they totally 100% would. My condolences to all of you guys who have to work in those warehouses. Hopefully the conditions have improved, but from all the stories that I've heard, it's not been great.
landed, which turned out to be a broken mech we could disassemble. Deconstructing gave us 2 out of the 4 pieces we'd need to build our mech. To make fighting mechanoids even easier, we accepted a quest for a Persona Zeus hammer, which we gave to Wally. No sooner did we get a 3rd raid, this time of all Scythers that we fought in a hallway where it was not favorable for them. Still, it was apparent that the raids were ramping up, so we needed to get our mech running as fast as possible. Luckily, our
Okay. Now that's something that a lot of experienced players would probably be able to easily do. And if I ever do play this game, I should definitely consider trying to set up like mazes or hallways that limit the area where enemies can come in through. Because I don't think they would, well, maybe it depends on the enemy, but like they would like break through walls or intentionally like create a tunnel into the cave from a different angle. That would seem, I don't know, a little excessive. Although, maybe that's one of the big benefits of building your base inside of a cave. Like, there's only certain paths that the AI can take, so you can already set up your defenses there and simply wait for them.
Our research was insanely fast, so we didn't need to wait long. 20,000 points of research later, we'd finished all the mech pieces and the ability to build a prototype. As we constructed a hangar, we were closing in on building our mech. So close that the mechanoids attacked again. Dropping inside our walls, there was a decent amount of them. Despite them setting us on fire and having better weapons, we didn't actually have any losses. Mostly. He's almost killed like 4 people at this point. I hate him so much. As we were mid-
Oh, he didn't choose to be born this way, okay? He's trying his best. Although, to be fair, we actually did make him this way, so. Are there any rules as to where the AI can drop enemy raiders in? Because, you know, being able to drop inside of your wall seems a little bit sus, but I guess that can happen. Or maybe it's like those are just walls and there wasn't really any roof there, so it's just natural that would happen. Like, I don't know how much needs to be taken into consideration, especially considering how simple the game looks from like I guess an art style perspective, when in reality all the systems underneath it are incredibly complex, so I can't even say.
Assembly on our mech, another raid. This time a siege from the unending march. Given how their last attack had gone, I didn't really want to fight them. We hid inside for as long as we could while the finishing touches were put on the mech. Our androids even had to keep running outside to repair broken wires to keep our electricity going. As you can imagine, that didn't go well. Oh, George 3.0, you made us so proud. Said no one ever. Good thing we had George 4.0, who would definitely last forever. But at last, we'd finished the prototype. It is just one guy, though. I mean, it can't be that strong.
Oh my god.
Turns out, mechs are pretty good. They have an enormous minigun sniper, an energy...
Yo, is this like something straight out of Titanfall? Actually, wait a minute, that reminds me. We did do like a video about all the legends in Apex Legends. I should probably also take a look at Titanfall itself. I've heard that it's a really good game and people enjoy it a lot. And there is some pretty deep lore there to be uncovered. But yeah, this mech is awesome, man. Like, it has a whole shield, and it has a minigun that can shoot through that shield. Like, what exactly are these guys supposed to do against that? Even our rocket launchers, too.
Energy shield, AoE blast, and a rocket launcher. Not to mention their ridiculous armor. It was an overall massive help to our defenses, which we began to improve. Turrets, sandbags, and mortars were added to the front, with an outer wall being constructed as well. And wouldn't you know, we were also contacted with an offer we couldn't refuse. One of the primary components of a ship in Rimworld is a persona core, and as it so happened, one of the human factions knew where to find one. But for them to tell us, we needed to be allied with the human faction. So instead of just bribing them with a drop pod, I had a better idea, because I'd prefer to talk with them in person. In true android fashion, we invented weapons of mass destruction. But how destructive? I mean, we're just firing a mortar, that's not too...
Jesus!
Oh.
What the?
Oh no. Unfortunately, they weighed about 5,500 kilograms, so transporting them wasn't possible. Yet somehow, violating the laws of physics, the actual components to build the bombs were lighter than the bombs themselves.
Yep, that makes sense. You can't make something out of nothing. Unless if it's in Rimworld.
I built a few muff units, which are just android muffalo with huge carry weights. After packing the caravan, they departed to...
Muffalo, I'm assuming, are just buffaloes that you can use to carry a ton of items in this game.
Pay a friendly visit to the human city. Upon arrival, we gave them some garbage and increased our goodwill, revealing the location of the persona core. Now, these humans had been helpful to us, and I could just leave and be on my merry way.
But no.
It would make no difference. But
Then we gotta drop
how about
the
no?
bomb.
We'd packed both a machining table and a generator, so instead of hauling a 5,000 kilogram bomb, the enemy faction watched as we just built it in their base. So after about 6 seconds of smashing components together, Zero built a nuke. I like my humans like I like my coffee. Liquid. After packing the caravan, we moved to secure the persona core. Arriving, we were greeted by tribals. Hi. After grabbing the core, we headed back to the base. With every ship part researched, the next step was to actually build it. So we expanded the frontal defenses to make room. First comes the ship's reactor, which we need to activate and defend over 15 days. After that, we placed structural beams and engines, followed by a sensor and cryopods for our androids to ride it. And last, using the persona core, we built the ship's AI navigator. Surrounding the ship was a wall to make sure raiders couldn't damage.
Whoa, just look at how intricate all these systems are. I wonder how you would figure out where everything should be going. I guess there's probably some sort of guide you have to follow. Unless if this is just basic knowledge for everybody who plays this game.
Damage it. All that was left was to activate the ship, which would take 15 days to charge and allow us to escape. But in those 15 days, we'd be raided like never before. Yeah. We're talking multiple raids every single day. Even with nuclear bombs, we'd need more firepower. I queued up 10 more androids to be built, and by this point, I wasn't even naming them. The ship was finalized, and our front lawn was looking like the beaches of Normandy. It was time to begin the final stretch to escaping the planet. Now, powering on the ship takes 15 days to complete, during which we'll have to survive enormous raids. I shit you not, while the audio for clicking the power was still playing a mechanoid raid, and an abysmal one at that. I armed all of our newly produced fodder and sent them to the front lines. Honestly, I'm surprised more didn't die. After the raid, we had some breathing room for about 5 seconds. This one was easier because humans are, well, pathetic. But it was still day one, and we already had 3 raids. Because this one was so far away, I loaded the mortars with a special ammo called swarm shells. As per their name, you could see what they did. The remaining tribals walked through our outer wall and were greeted by a friendly face. With the 3rd raid dealt with, we had a bit of a break. Days 2, 3, and 4 were quiet, but day 5, a siege. And about a minute later, a raid from the unending march. We fought the androids while being bombed by the siege, but some friendly androids actually drop-potted in. Why anyone would help us at this point, I do not know. Using our allies is a fun little...
Well, maybe it's more like, we'll help you so that you don't ever do that to us. Although, considering Kleaper's track record in this game, you know, being friends with him doesn't really mean anything. He will, you know, destroy you if you have something of interest. Or honestly, just for the heck of it.
Distraction, our mech cleared the rest of the raid. With all their corpses, we now had armor for our newly produced tier 1s. Day 6 was met with Raid 6, a tribal breacher raid. So as to not destroy the outer wall, I armed our mortars with a lesser...
Okay, yeah, no, they can just straight break through. Although maybe they require special tools in order to do so, and it might depend on the material that you created the walls with. Regardless though, it'll take some time, so it does give you some breathing room in order to get your defenses ready.
It's our 8,000 pound bomb.
Ooh.
Yeah. Lesser. No sooner did it explode than another raid came in. Still not too bad, but they did actually make it to us this time. We started to rebuild the wall, got another raid, then rebuilt more wall. The next few days went quickly, with us fighting a few more sieges. With only 7 days remaining, we'd hit the halfway mark. Our defenses shored up everything up to the 10th. At last, we made it to day 14 with our moral compass existing. With only 24 hours left for the ship to charge, we were almost to the end. We'd produced a plethora of tier 1 fodder, had a powerhouse of a mech suit, and had fully repaired our defensive lines. All that remained was one last raid. Given how easily we'd cleared all the others, how hard could this one be?
Oh my god. So that's what we were seeing. This was the final raid. The AI is like, fire everything. Press every single button. Send every person left on this planet here. Jeez, this is a whole zombie apocalypse if they were zombies. Which reminds me, there probably is some sort of zombie apocalypse mod. If not a mod, then actual DLC.
Oh. Our very last raid, and this one decided to attack my frame rate directly. Rimworld maxes out on selecting 200 characters, so there were probably more than 400 tribals in this one raid. Okay.
Jesus. Actually, the fact that, you know, it looks so simple, but it's already chugging your computer must mean that there's so many things going on behind it, so many calculations going on. If this game looked any more realistic or was heavier on your graphics card, this would, this would be unplayable. And I mean, Kleaper's probably gotta have a beast of a system, right? So yeah. That's impressive.
Sure, I mean, I can just use my bombs to clear the whole thing, like the bombs that don't exist. I'd run out of steel, so my production automatically stopped, and our mortars had none either. That meant we had to deal with over 400 raiders the old-fashioned way. Worse yet, we have to hold them outside, or else they'd break in and destroy our ship. With a tide of tribals swarming over the landscape, things were not looking good. The androids were lined up, along with our mech, uranium turrets, and Wally the Doomslayer. We showered the first tribal.
Wally the Doomslayer? Okay, not gonna lie, this is kind of epic. Like, what a picture perfect, I guess, dramatic, a very cinematic finish to the end of this game. And this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, it's not even a part of Kleaper's script here. It's the AI playing along with Kleaper's story. That's awesome, man. Setting up these really cool moments and sending enough enemies to the point where you don't know if you're gonna be able to make it out of this one alive. Considering that the AI probably has, like, taken into account all the previous raids and, like, how well we've been able to hold up against that, maybe it thought that this is the appropriate amount of people to send in order to have a kind of a butt clincher finish here.
Tribals with bullets, which kept them back. But as the main body of their army started to arrive, they quickly closed the gap. They overwhelmed the frontal position and began to tear down our turrets.
Too many bodies.
Even the Great Wally was downed after being surrounded, and our left side was completely compromised. We retreated into the walls with the mech holding the outside. Even with thousands of HP, it wasn't faring well. Turret explosions and rockets incinerated swaths of raiders, but with most of our androids downed or dead,
what is even going on anymore in this game?
Despite our mech being about to shatter, the raiders retreated, leaving an empty desert caked with circuit fire and blood. Our remaining androids rushed to save everyone they could, and by this point, the ship was fully charged. With only 5 cryopods, we loaded who we could. Zero, the first android, Wally, the literal tank, as well as Hal and George 5.0. And of course, Dig Dug, our friend since the beginning. We loaded all 5 into the ship and looked back at the colony we'd built. After 3 years on the rim, our android race had finally escaped.
Awesome.
If you made it all the ways to the end and enjoyed the various human rights violations, consider liking the video and subscribing.
Yeah,
if
definitely
you don't,
go and support Kleaper,
good
man.
luck.
Oh god, Murder's Rage Kleaper, no! But just, wow, dude. Every single video that I check about this game, the story that it's able to tell is just so incredible to me. I had never known that there was a game like this out there, but now that I do, it just opens up so many different possibilities. Which, speaking of, I believe that there is another game that this was kind of based off of. I think it was called Dwarf Fortress, right? Well, I don't know exactly which one came first, but I've heard that it's in a very similar vein, so maybe you should check that out as well. Regardless, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure to go and support Kleaper. Link to the OG at the top of the description, as always. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.